Hi guys, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome to the First Division preview show. We'll start this week at the Carlisle grounds. Our Bray Wanderers take on Athlone Town. We've got 5th against 7th here, but there's 8 points between them in the table, Keno. I tipped Bray to win the last time out against UCD. I was sure they're going to win. They were 4-0 down, ended up losing 4-3. But do you fancy them here against Athlone?
That was some game last week, by the way. That was some finish to a game. I enjoyed watching that now. I don't
nice to see Gary Shaw back, incidentally, and grab the match ball and that as well, even though they lost.
Look, it was brilliant. They'd be unlucky to lose that. They'd be fuming with themselves considering how bad they were in the first half. But, to come back like that and show a bit of character. I know they didn't get out now of the game, but it'll take a lot. I think Athlone might get a draw here. I can't see them winning it at all. Bray, I don't want to call them a draw specialist for me, but they're getting a fair few draws these days. So I'm gonna go for a draw here. I'm gonna go for a Keith. Like you, a draw.
Philip, Athlone obviously had that new manager bounce. Doolan came in with the 1-0 win, but last week they were beaten well by Cork City. I think basically, I don't know what you think, there's a lot of sorting out to do for next season there. I don't think they need to bring in too many players. I think they need to sort out what they have and find a system and a way of playing and really get in the training ground. How do you see it with Athlone?
Yeah, they do. And I think, look, they've had individuals that have done really well for them this season, but again, I look at them sometimes at different times, the likes of Stephen Meany and such, Jamie Hollywood's obviously been in and out, and I just think they need to sort themselves out as a team. I think they don't really need to do too much business. I think they just need to work on how the team sets up and goes about games, because you can see in games that they kind of struggle at times. I know they've had a change of manager, but even last week, they just looked like they weren't able to cope with the system they were set up to play. And I just think it just gave Cork the opportunity to go and really put in a good performance. And maybe a few weeks back, without the change of manager and the same system, I think Cork might have actually lost the game. I think Athlone probably could have won it, And I just think next season, just a reset button, new manager in, fresh start, fresh run at it. I think they could do all right and finish in the playoffs. But again, let's be honest, Bray last week, very unfortunate, weren't they, not to get something out of the game. But again, you make your own luck, and you can't go 4 down and expect to win the game. And that's exactly so. That's it. It's great to see, as you said there, about Gary Shaw coming back. I seen him there the other day. He was beaming ear to ear in Newbridge. So I hope.
Did he have the match ball with him?
Oh, he didn't. He was in his uniform for work or whatever. But he's a good lad, you know what I mean? He's a very genuine lad, and the people in Newbridge love him. They really do. And it was great to see him get a hat trick, because everyone knows on his day he's probably the best striker in the First Division on his day. Now he has to be at it and 100% on it to be the best striker, but he can be. And I suppose I'd love to see him continue this now, and I hope he can keep himself fit now for the rest of the season, the remainder of the season, what's left in it. And I hope he can get a few more goals, because if we can get a few more goals, I'd fancy Bray to climb another place or two maybe in the playoffs and really fancy themselves going into it. So I think they will win this game, if I'm honest with you. I just think the style of football that they go about will really trouble Athlone, and the fact they're kind of going through a bit of a change at the moment is not going to help them with coping with Bray. So I'm going to go Bray to actually win this comfortably. I'm going to go 2 or 3-0.
Yeah, same. I think they'll win 2 or 3-0 as well. No draw here. Galway United take on Treaty. 2 points between them at the table. Second against fourth. Treaty hit back actually last week with a very important win after a couple of games without results. So that was massive for their confidence as well. Galway, they're still trying to eye up Shelburne. It's going to be very, very difficult. But all they can do is try and keep winning every week. And you never know, Shelburne might slip up on that. But how do you see this one, Cian?
Anytime Shells drop points, Galway seem to drop more. Shells end up dropping 2 points and they get a point out of it, and Galway end up losing, and Shells end up drawing, or Shells end up winning, and Galway then win, and they're kind of matching their results all the way through, even if they're losing. I think Galway be kicking themselves, because some of the games they lost, especially in the last couple of, last 2 months or so, You know, they lost a couple of games, especially at home, and like against teams that you'd like to think they should be winning if they did want to put a title race on. And I think
the one against Athlone lately, they'd be killing themselves. That one, to be honest with you.
That's it. And you know, I fancy them. I fancy them to stay second. I can't see them losing that position. And I think Treaty will hit back again 2 weeks in the bounce for a win here.
A win. Interesting, Philip.
Yeah, it's a tough one to call at the minute, Keith. You know, I think the league's done now, in my opinion. I know, like, the results have been mixed. Both sets of teams have had mixed results, but I think it's finished. I cashed out on that Galway one, so that'll tell you how confident I am in winning the league. I got a few quid off it, so I won't complain. But anyways, in terms of Galway, I can see them winning this game. A very, very close game, to be honest with you. I think Treaty, good response for them, you know, and there was a lot of questions over Treaty the past couple of weeks, you know, with seeing results, and everyone's like, a couple of my mates anyways thought that they'll drift out now and they probably won't win many games between now and the rest of the season, but they responded well, and I just think Galway will get a result here. I don't know why. Do you know when you just get that feeling? You know what I mean? I just have that feeling that Galway will win the game. I'm going to go 1-0. I'm going to think it's going to be a very scrappy game. And I don't think Keith's going to agree with me, but look at that face.
I'm smiling away because I'm going for a draw here. I think it's written all over it. UCD take on Cabinteely, a derby match, 3rd against 8th. UCD have a brilliant record against Cabinteely, actually. Their last 5 meetings, UCD have won, and normally they win it quite comfortably. Overall, 14 goals in the last 5 games. Whelan with 15 all season. Cabot with no clean sheet in 11 games, Cian, so it's impossible that UCD don't score here, isn't it?
Well, you say that, but Cabinteely...
0-0.
You know, no, fairness to Cabinteely, when the odds are against them, they show up and they batter teams. They don't even win; they batter teams. I don't know. You can't even predict Cabinteely. Look, if I got 3 Cabinteely wins right in a whole season in the bookies, I'll be up a fair few quid. I'll tell you how long they were. Now, 3 of them out of every result they played. I think if I got 3 of them right, I'd nearly buy a house. And I think that's, you know, I think their odds are they're all over the place. And you don't know what you're going to get from them. So I'm going to go with what I know. And I'm going to go UCD to win this 2 or 3 with a bit of luck.
Yeah, Philip, I mean, I thought maybe the Cup might be a little distraction to UCD because they're kind of cemented in the playoffs, but they've been doing well in the league in recent weeks alongside that as well. I know people say they let a 4-goal lead slip against Bray, but they won the game. They went 4-0 up in the first place. When they play fluent football, they're the best team in the division, aren't they?
Yeah, and I suppose I was very complimentary of UCD at the start of the season, Keith. I think you both agree with me. I kept rambling on, thought they were a third for the league at one stage. But obviously that dipped, the form dipped, everything about UCD just went out the window for a month or two, and they couldn't buy a result. And now they've had that turnaround and they've consolidated their position in the playoffs. And to be honest with you, they've played a lot of good football recently, you know, and although they've played a lot of good football, there's been games where they've kind of had to scrap it out as well, and they've got results as well. And I think that this will probably be one of those games, you know, Cabinteely are obviously in major trouble, you know, in terms of getting into the playoffs, and I don't think they will. I think that ship has long sailed. But I think they'll want to fight for something, you know, they can only take each game as it comes, and I think they'll go and put in a performance here, but I don't think they'll get a result. You know, I just think that UCD have too much for them. And I think the thing that I've noticed with UCD in the past few weeks is the new lads that have come in, the new young lads that have come in, have done really well for them as well. You know, and I think that they're starting to excel again, and they look like the Cabinteely of old. So, the UCD of old, that is, sorry. So I'm going to go UCD. I'm going to go comfortable, actually. I'm going to go 4-0 UCD. I think it'll be an easy one for them.
Yeah, I think it'd be comfortable as well. So I reckon Cab will definitely win now. But it was great to see actually Colin Whelan actually come on as a sub 3 minutes later and score for the 21s, actually, the Irish 21s the other day. That was fantastic as well, to be fair. Wexford take on Cove. We've got 10th against 9th here. There's 10 points between them in the league, Cian. But I think on form, I wouldn't say there's 10 points between them, would you?
No, look, it's a bit of a nothing game, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is these are the games that just you tend to get towards the end of the season, and attendances are going to be low, and there's going to be no real buzz to it. I think Wexford are in a much better position, much better mind frame than Cove. And you'd like to think that they're planning something big for the next 2 to 3 seasons. I'm no doubt Cove are doing the same, but I just think Wexford are a little bit ahead of Cove in that area, with Ian Ryan and Locke and Fitz and stuff. So I'm gonna go with a Wexford win. I just think that just on that basis alone, I don't think either team will be too down if they lose, or too happy if they win. But I just think Wexford are building something good here for the next coming seasons, and it'd be interesting to see how he lines out for the next couple of games, and gets them over the line into the next round.
Yeah, still in the cup, of course, as well. Philip, I think Cove though will be more disappointed with their season than Wexford, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think they need to prove a point in this game, Keith. I think they need to go in and put a solid performance in, because I think they probably expect themselves to finish in and around close to the playoffs, not in them, but give themselves a chance, and that just didn't happen this season, and as Keno said, it's a nothing game, and to be honest with you, I won't watch it because I won't watch it back even because I just don't have an interest in it, and I'd imagine that's a lot of things with even Cove and Wexford
watch
fans.
Watch the highlights if it's 3-3.
Oh, that's it. That's about it. Like, do you know what I mean? If it's a 1-0 game, like, I'm not going to bother looking back on it. I'll probably watch the goal, but that's it. Like, it's a tough one, Keith, because they're both two good clubs and they're trying to do things right, but obviously money isn't on their side, and like it's hard to keep players and hold on to them. We've seen it over the years with Cove in particular losing players to stronger sides, and I just think that it's really got to be something that they're going to want to put in a performance against Wexford, just because they're down thereabouts with each other, and I think they'll just want to prove a point. Look, we haven't been having a good season, but we're not by all means down there towards the bottom of the league because we're such a poor team. Just things haven't went well this season for us, and sometimes that can happen to teams. You see teams finishing a lot lower than what you would have expected, and maybe just, I don't know, not feeling sorry for themselves, but just not having as much quality as maybe they think. And I think that's probably the case with Cove at the minute, and probably definitely underachieved in my book. But I just think the quality of player that they've had has not been probably what they would have wanted, and they usually recruit well from the leagues down there around them, but this year it just hasn't seemed to have gone right and hasn't seemed to click. So I just think though they want to put in a performance, and I'm going to go with them to win 1-0. I know both teams have kind of been leaking goals, but I just think it's going to be a scrappy game. There's not going to be too many chances in it, because let's be honest, no one's going to need to go for anything, because their leagues are practically finished. It's just playing for position now at the minute, and yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 to Cove.
I think it might be a pressure-free open game, to be honest. I think Wexford might do enough. I think they have a little bit more going forward in terms of quality, to be honest with you. We finished up at Cork City and Shelbourne at Turner's Cross, 6th against 1st. 13 goals in the last 5 games for Cork. Murphy banging in the goals there. He's got 10 this season now. Brennan, by the way, has got 13 for Shells. Second highest scorer in the league. Amazing stuff from him. Not an easy game for Shells, Cian, to be honest, as we said.
No, definitely not. I know Cork are 6th, but you wouldn't think if you're looking at the last couple of games. I'm the biggest.
They're probably disappointed, Cian. Sorry, just to jump in quickly there. Yeah, they're 8 points behind 5th. They'd be thinking if they were about 4 behind, they could nick a place in the playoffs. But I still think it's a lot to ask, isn't it?
It's a lot to ask. They'd be kicking themselves. I think a playoff position was the bare minimum that Cork probably. To be honest, probably at the start of the season, the playoff spot wasn't even acceptable. They'd want to finish 2nd or 1st and really go for it. And it should have been neck and neck with Shelbourne, and that's the way it is, but it wasn't. But they've got their act together in the last couple of weeks, and I think they could take a lot of heart out of that cup game against Pats. In terms of how they played, they just lacking that cutting edge, which they seem to get right in the last couple of weeks. And scoring goals, and it's disappointing for Cork that they've only come into it now, and it's probably frustrating for the fans as well. They look like a brand new team. They look like even McNulty looks half decent, and that's that says an awful lot. Like, I'd be the biggest critic, and I have been since the start of the season. But the last couple of weeks, if anything, has frustrated me more than anything, because they know they can turn it on and they know they can play. Like, I was looking at Dylan McLeod's goal. There was just no.
Unreal.
Now, I think it was the second best goal of the week with Billy King's goal. Now, come on.
The power, though, it's like it was getting more powerful as it was hitting the goal. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, it took off. It did take off.
Yeah.
You could just picture what's his name? Joey and Dow. Imagine him commentating on that.
I'd still be going,
Wait till 9 o'clock. It was excellent. It was an excellent performance from them, and I think the last couple of weeks, like I said, it'll probably frustrate Colin Healy and frustrate the fans even more, because the way they're going at the minute, they're probably, in my opinion, going to miss out on the playoffs by a point or two.
And
they'd be a serious threat if they got in. That's the problem.
Yeah, and I think it'd be a point or two, and I genuinely mean that. I think they'll close the gap, but I don't think they'll finish in it. I think it's too much of a gap with only a few games to play. They have to win every game and hope teams slip up around them. And if you win every game, you give yourself a fighting chance. And will they win this game? I know it's 6th against 4th, but it doesn't feel like that in the last couple of weeks. So, I'm going to say Cork will get something. I'm going to go for one of your specials and say a draw. I just think they'll get something out of the game. I can't see them losing it. And that says a lot for me, considering if you were to go back and watch these videos at the start of the season.
Mind you, all three of us, I would say there. Philip?
I'll be honest with you. I fancy Cork. I do fancy them this week. I just think Cian made a good point there a minute ago. When you look at it on paper, Cian made a good point about how they'd be kicking themselves about how they've started this season and how they're only getting going now. But I think it's down to the fact that they are a young squad, Cork, you know what I mean? And they've one or two experienced heads. But I think just what's happened at the start of the season was the players needing to adjust. Because let's be honest, a lot of them were playing junior football 2 seasons ago, and now they're in the first team for Cork, who are a big club. And sometimes that expectation can really baffle players, and it looked like it did for a good part of the season. Look, I suppose we all thought they were just rubbish and they weren't good enough for it, and whatever they've got going on with their academy setup down there just wasn't working. And look, that's the past few weeks has proven us wrong completely, and they've really turned their season around. And I'll be honest with you, Keith, I fancy them to get in. I fancy them just to get in. I think they'll just about get in now, because the way they're playing at the minute, they're one of the form sides in the league. And I know, look, it's a big task. It is a big task. But if they beat Shells, I think they'll be flying high, and you've mentioned this a couple of times before.
They have to win this weekend, though. They've any chance.
They have to. Yeah, they have to. They have to win every game till the rest of the season, in my opinion. But as I said, the way they're playing, you can't write them off. You really can't. And the thing that you said, Keith, was a good point. It's always a good point. Is that young sides, when they win, they're full of confidence. And this Cork side, they look the most confident team in both sets of divisions, just the way they're going and playing. And let's be honest, that wonder goal the weekend, maybe 5 or maybe 8 weeks ago, he wouldn't have took that shot, because
he probably pays it back to the left back.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I think
that's the thing there, Philip, that you were saying about young players making mistakes and stuff at the start of the season.
Yeah.
Being honest, right? I genuinely go back and look at the games. A lot of the mistakes were coming from the most senior players. In Morrissey, in BE, in obviously McNulty was probably on cost for an awful lot of goals. And I think that, I'll be honest, I think that was a lot of balls. I don't think Colin Healy had the balls to drop them. And I think that was the problem. But, McNulty seems to half catch a ball now. You look at, the midfield seems to be set there. Cian Coleman is probably taking that position with a scruff of the neck now where Morrissey was.
Barry Coffey's come in and made a serious difference as well.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with him. He's been very good.
So I think they're after getting the balance right. But, the more senior players will probably let Cork down this season, and not the young lads. I think the young lads.
That was actually, without going too far into it, that was the same with last season as well. You had Bennett at centre back as well, who struggled badly as well. No, but you know what I mean. We're laughable. Be honest about it as well.
I'm thinking of the ball going over Bennett's head, and McNulty and Bennett just running into each other.
Absolutely lavishing, wasn't it?
I suppose with that point though, Keno, I think what I'm trying to get at is, like, they really struggled for goals at the start of the season. I thought, like, they did score, but they didn't score enough, let's be honest. And defensively, they were shocking. But again,
they've changed as well, Philip. They've put Whitmarsh up front with Cian Murphy, and they've kind of gone two up top, and they seem to have blended well together. Whitmarsh is very strong. He's small, but he's strong, and Murphy's very pacey. And just the blend is right now. And you were making a good point, actually, about the older players and that. If the older players are struggling, it's very hard for younger players to take things with a scuff of the neck.
Yeah. But I have to say, with Murphy, with the young lad, he looks a different player to what he did at the start of the season. Do you know what I mean? Like, he looked very isolated, and then when he did get the ball, he was making the wrong decisions, in terms of when to take a man on, when not to turn and just pass it back, and I think that was something that he's probably gained with experience. And I tell you one thing, Keith, right? If Cork don't finish in the playoffs this season, I think they'll win the league next year, and that's a big shout, being honest with you. If this development that they've had in the past few weeks with the players that they've got, because I personally don't think too many players will leave Cork this year if they don't finish in the playoffs, and if they don't compete. But I just think if they can keep that unit together, and look, there's other clubs that are really strong as well that will probably fancy themselves next season, but I don't see why Cork wouldn't. And I think another thing, Keith, that we have to mention is the fans being back for Cork. I think that's massively, massively helped them as well. And I think there's no coincidence that the turn of results has been since the fans have come back. And I know it took a week or two to get going when the fans are back, and they let their feelings be known as to what it was like without fans in the stadium. But since they've came back in, they've been brilliant, and they have got behind them. And it was nice to see a lot of fans there last week getting behind that team. And look,
I think what is, Philip, as well, if you see most players that give it their best, and even if they struggle, if you know what I mean, if they give it their best, fans will have a moan that, but they're not going to get on players' backs, you know what I mean, once they try their best. And they feel like they didn't see that earlier on in the season. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm not too sure, maybe, but they're seeing it. They're certainly seeing it now, and the young players, as you say, mainly have responded well. So that shows a lot for their character as well. But this game, are we all going for Cork? I'm going for Cork as well.
Yeah. Well, I think
did
you
say draw?
Yeah.
Keno done my job. Fair enough. But I
think if they had a cable outside, they win it.
Well, they probably will win because we didn't go for a full house. We didn't go for a full house, so they should win. Cork should win.
That's it as well. You're probably right. But Shelbourne, I think they're just, I think if they win this, though, they have it wrapped up. But you just never know. If they were beaten this weekend in Galway to win, I know it's ifs and buts, but it can happen. You just never know. And I think for the neutral, it'd be nice to see some kind of a little race somewhere, wouldn't it, Cian?
I'd love it, and I'd like to see Cork back in the Premier Division.
I think everyone would. Yeah.
I think I'm just thinking of McNulty back in the Premier. I'm just thinking of the balls being lumped in on top of him, and it's gonna be comical. No, honestly, I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to the run in here for the playoffs. I think Cork will be kicking themselves. I can't say them getting that, but I think they'll be kicking themselves if they're only a point or two off, considering look at the start of the season and look how bad they were up until about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Look, guys, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Hit your bell notification button and let us know what you think of the games and the general comments. Thanks very much, guys.